The AP Style book is a reference that's so useful when we're writing in many ways. Some of it for the technical aspects of do you use a percent sign or spell it out, but also for using the right words, right? Using words that are balanced and a language of inclusion. So here are a few of the elements that you might find helpful. There's an entry for disabled and handicapped. And so oftentimes when we're writing about people and their personal identity, right? So we all identify ourselves in many different ways. And when we're talking about somebody and who they are, it's natural that when we're writing, we have to use descriptors or different ways to characterize somebody. And that's deeply personal to the person we're writing about. And so it's important to be cognizant of that, right? And we get nervous, right? So it's natural that you worry that you might say the wrong thing or use the wrong word. So we should be sensitive to that and want to use the best balanced and accurate word. So here's some rules that AP has set out. So this is just a good example of one of the entries, right? So under this, it's a long entry, but here's just a shorthand version. So don't use retarded. Disabled is preferable, and use only when that's pertinent, right? So we don't say handicapped, we say disabled. Blind, that is okay if it's accurate, but many people aren't blind completely, they're visually impaired, right? So that is certainly a spectrum, so ask the person. Deaf and dumb is something we used to hear, but it's hearing impaired is much more appropriate. Now again, deaf still may be accurate, so you can certainly ask the person if it's pertinent. We don't say crippled, we are more, it's more accurate to describe the disability, and again, sometimes that makes us nervous, so the best way is just to ask the person, right? To don't be nervous, just say, how do you describe your disability? Wheelchair bound, we see that or read that all the time, and it's really, it's not accurate for one thing, and it's really limiting. So nobody is really lives in their wheelchair 24 hours a day. Now it is true that some people are, secured in their wheelchair because they need that physical support, but people use a wheelchair, right? So it's more appropriate to say that. Let's look at a few more terms. So gender neutral terms, AP Style book is really good about that. So you may be accustomed to saying fireman or policeman, but it's firefighter, police officer, postal carrier, and flight attendant. Now, interestingly enough, that there are a couple of terms that I think we're seeing more and more. The gender neutral version, actually adopting the male version as the gender neutral version. But AP Style still says waiter or waitress. And it still says actor or actress, but also notes that if a woman prefers to be called an actor, that's perfectly okay, right? So we use that. And some media outlets actually have just decided that actor is the term for everybody in that profession. There also are a lot of terms relating to race and ethnicity, which can be very helpful. Here's the latest. One of the things you'll notice about the AP Style book, especially if you're using it online, is that they update once a year, usually around a big national conference that happens. And so this entry was actually updated in May of 2018. So it talks about acceptable when clearly relevant, biracial and multiracial, to describe people of more than one racial heritage, usually more useful when describing large, diverse groups of people rather than individuals. Avoid mixed race, which can carry negative connotations unless a story subject prefers that term. Be specific if possible, and then use biracial for people of two heritages or multiracial for those of two or more on subsequent references if needed. Again, if needed, right? It's not always pertinent. Examples, she has an African American father and a white mother, instead of saying she's biracial, right? So we're just being specific. But if it's a general, right, we're talking about a group of people, the study of biracial people showed a split in support among gender lines. Multiracial can encompass people of many combinations of races. So this can be very helpful. Also, sometimes we'll look for specific ethnicities, so you can do that as well. There's also a very helpful resource. It's not the AP Style Guide, but it's related, right? So it's called the Diversity Style Guide, and it's actually produced in combination with a university, and the Society of Professional Journalists has helped fund this. So the Diversity Style Guide is a resource to help journalists and other media professionals cover a complex multicultural world with accuracy, authority, and sensitivity. The guide includes terms and phrases related to race and ethnicity, religion, sexual orientation, gender identity, age and generation, drugs and alcohol, physical, mental, and cognitive disabilities. And so you can search by alphabet if you just want to look up Q, right? And you can also just do a search for a specific word. Like if you search for Indian, it brings up quite a lengthy number of entries about that. There are style guides, other style guides with specific groups. I will tell you the Diversity Style Guide worked in conjunction with many of these organizations, so it sort of pulls it all together in one place, and it's been recently redone. But you can also go check out some of these many other style guides. So this is Grant. Grant won a Barbara Jordan Award, which is a Governor's Award for writing about people and producing content about people with disabilities. The award is based on it being people first, right? So the disability is just a part of who they are, but it's not the whole story. So he wrote this book called Grant the Jigsaw Giraffe, Different is More. And if you want to know what Grant's disability is, ask him. Right? That's the best way to do it. Grant obviously talks openly about this because he's an author and an artist, and on his website it says that he is combining his two worlds, autism and art. But don't be nervous about it. Be accurate. That's more respectful, right? Just ask.